control the vertical.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today I am actually going to be covering an episode from a series I've already covered. I don't usually do this apart from our three main ones, unless I'm doing an entire season of a show. But this one's a little different. It kind of ties in with one of my other podcasts, and I watched this and I really liked it and I wanted to talk about it again. Now, I have covered it before in episode 20 of Anthologic, and that one was Nightmare and Dreamscapes Season 1, Episode 1, Battleground, which was an okay story, I guess. This is Episode 4 of Nightmare and Dreamscapes, and it's called The End of the Whole Mess. And the reason I'm covering this is in one of my other shows, Kingology, which is following the chronological books and short stories of Stephen King in the order they're published, and also any versions of them, be it TV or movie or whatever. I'm covering it, and I've just come to Nightmare and Dreamscapes, and this is story. I'm covering the first 8 stories in the book of 24. There are 24 stories, and the end of the whole mess is in that first 8. So I watched it for the purposes of my other Kingology, but I really liked it. And I thought it was an opportunity to sort of connect the two different sub podcasts I do. Also, it's a very good one, so I wanted to give it some sort of discussion. The end of the whole mess. I'm trying to decide how much spoiler to do, but it's a story about basically how civilization kind of winds up inadvertently. Now, in the written form, in the short story by Stephen King, someone is telling their story by writing it down and sort of telling what's happened before they aren't able to do that anymore. Now, this particular TV episode does it in a more cinematic and suitable for TV way, which is he's making a video diary. A video diary would be a lot quicker, so it kind of makes sense, and also it lends itself to the form way better. It stars Ron Livingston and Henry Thomas. Ron Livingston's really good in this. He's our main narrator. He's telling the story, and it starts with him setting up a camera, checking it's on, saying he hasn't got much time, and then starts explaining where this story came from. Really, it's a story of family. He tells us about his exceptionally gifted brother, who's very inventive and clever, but in a non-traditional way. Who, as time goes on, we see how Ron Livingston's character develops into a fairly solid career, a filmmaker, in fact. Also, his mum and dad aren't slouches intellectually. They're fairly clever, and his dad's a professor, and his mum sort of does realty, but she's very successful at it. It's the story of this family and the brother, who's a bit of not a loose cannon, but he's off on his own, and he needs to be left to be off on his own. He's one of those types, and he comes back, and we find out he's very depressed about the world. They do interestingly, in the original King story, it's just talking about the state of the world and how horrible it's got. It's set in a sort of a bit of a future, only a little, like 5 or 10 years in the future from when it was written, and it talks about sort of terrorist attacks that didn't actually happen, but it presages the terrorist attacks that did happen. The book was written or published in 1993, and we all know 9/11 happened in 2001. So it was presaging that. It talked about a London attack in the short story, so it's a little different. So Ron Livingston narrates. Henry Thomas is the clever brother. Henry Thomas is good, and he's got a tie-in with horror somewhat and King somewhat. Well, I think he appeared in the movie The Dark Half, and he's also most lately been in Gerald's Game, which is a Stephen King adaptation, as the dad, and also in stuff that's sort of near Stephen King. It isn't Stephen King, but near it, with the Haunting of Bly Manor and the Haunting of Hill House TV shows. So Henry Thomas has got some pedigree in this. And in both of these guys deliver well. Ron Swanson, I keep saying Ron Swanson. Ron Livingston delivers really well, I'd say, really good. It's well directed. The director is Michael Solomon, and does a good job. He also, interestingly, directed one or more episodes of Band of Brothers, which Ron Livingston was also in. So that's kind of interesting. They may have had a connection or worked together before this. Essentially, the story is the brother works out that mankind is bad, and all this stuff's happening. He needs to figure out how to fix it. And he finds this place where the water seems to calm people down. And he figures out, and he tests his theory on visually using a bee's nest and a wasp's nest, talking about how bees are kamikazes. They die if they sting, whereas wasps can sting and sting again. And human beings are more like wasps than bees. And he's used this water that he's found to sort of show that the wasps' more aggressive tendencies are severely curtailed once exposed to the water. He knows there's a protein in it, but he doesn't want to know what it is. But he wants to try and, before the world really ends it all, he wants to try and spread this water around the world to pacify things. And that's the story. I won't go into it too much. I will say that it's a really good story. I like the fact Stephen King wrote an effective story, and the screenwriter here has lifted quite a bit of the King words and phrases and dialogue straight into the story wisely, because it works. So it gives it a really nice feel that it is a Stephen King direct adaptation without too much messing about, which I really appreciate. And this one is a great episode. It really is. I haven't watched any of the others apart from the first one, which I thought was okay. But this one, I think, was tip top. And in looking through how people review it, it is considered the best of the series. It was a fairly short series. I forgot to do my usual housekeeping, haven't I? The TV show was aired in 2006. There was only 8 episodes, I believe. It aired between July the 12th and August the 2nd, 2006, on TNT, based on, I think, about 5 or 6 of the stories were from Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and the remainder were from other Stephen King short stories. I don't think Battleground is in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, for example. The end of the whole mess certainly is. So there's that. There's Battleground was from Night Shift, I just found. He also wrote another short story collection that was published after this called Everything's Eventual. I think it was after this. And a few other stories from that too. But I have to say, Ron Livingston really delivered. It was put together well. It was very enjoyable. It was fun. The intros are very generic kind of anthology intro. Spooky music, a kid going into a weird house, and we see weird images. I think from the various episodes, we kind of see quick kind of snippets of various bits going on, like projected on a wall and stuff like that. So they were kind of evoking that. I really quite like this. I think it's a solid episode, and it's led me to believe the remaining episodes are probably worth a watch. It's probably worth a watch overall. So I heartily recommend this particular episode. And as I say, it's a bit unusual for me. I don't usually go back to another series. I'm trying to get through every episode 1 of every, or at least the first available episode of all the series I found. So I consider this season 1 of Anthologic we're still going through. But I've still got a good 50 or 60 things to get through, as well as my usual, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Night Gallery stuff. So we've probably got another 2 years at least before we get to the end of season 1. But we'll see. So thorough recommend for me again. I really enjoyed this and I recommend it. And let me leave you with this thought, or question, should I say. Is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to